So just a couple of things to keep in mind and a couple of updates. You'll notice in the right-hand corner of your screen where the Crown Council logo is, for those of you that were not with us at the annual event in February, you'll notice the new Crown Council website address, crowncouncil.org. So if you have not been to that website yet, today is the day. So you might want to venture out there. It is a whole new world that has been created there and gives you an opportunity for you to create an office profile. And as well as, one of the things we're really excited about is it gives every team member an opportunity to participate. So if you're a team member in a Crown Council office, you can go there, you can set up your own profile, and then you can join the appropriate group by position in the office. So if you're a dental assistant, you can join the dental assistants group, and there are ongoing discussions by all the dental assistants in the Crown Council, or hygienists or business assistants, whatever your position is, you can join that group. So make sure that at some point today that you venture out to that new website. It houses a lot of what we do virtually. It's got all of the webinars are housed there. It has all the team meetings, information about Smiles for Life, upcoming things that we're doing. All of the Mentor of the Month programs are libraried there. So we're very excited about that new world that we've created there. So make sure everybody gets an opportunity to go out there and sign up and start engaging at a higher level. So excited about the presentation today. I had a great time putting this together, and as I've looked at the attendee list, there are those of you that have been very plugged in to everything that we do at the Total Patient Service Institute and in the Crown Council. There are some of you, less so. We've got a great mix of all kinds of people. So I'll say this as just kind of an introductory deal, that this is, for some, will be a little bit of review. For others, there may be some new stuff here. The one thing that I'm always respectful of is the fact that learning is, to a great extent, about repetition. So as we go along today, if by chance you hear something that you've heard before, then the question might be to ask yourself, if I know this, am I doing it, and to what extent am I doing it to get the results that we want in our practice? And the goal here, obviously, as the title indicates, is creating the yes practice. And we're going to talk about some secrets to always producing more than you have scheduled. And I think everybody would love to have days where you consistently produce more than you have scheduled. And we're going to talk about some ways that you can do that today. So let's start out with a couple of housekeeping items. One, obviously, you're in listen-only mode, so you can hear me, and I can't hear you. So that makes it easy for me. But if you have a question at any time, you have a box on your screen where you can type in a question. And near the end of the presentation, we'll take a few minutes for any questions. And again, this is all being recorded, so if you want to go back and listen, it will be housed at crowncouncil.org, and you can go back as well. So that being said, let's get rolling. And I hope you have some fun this afternoon, because we're gonna talk about some skills, some systems, and some specific things you can do to have more success every day, to have a yes practice, and have more patients accepting treatment and producing more than you have scheduled. So let's start out with a common grounding principle. And all of you that have been with me for a long time, you know what I'm going to say next when I put the word purpose up on the screen, because we always start by talking about this to make sure everybody's on the same page. So when you walked in the door this morning to the practice, and you contemplated what it was that you were going to accomplish today, my question to you would be, what was your purpose? When you came in, what did you think you were there for? And we have repeated this same thing for years, which is as a common ground. We believe that a common purpose that everybody has every day in the practice is to create happy, paying patients who repeat and refer and pay more than it costs to serve them. So the question is, whose purpose is that? That is everybody in the office, whether you're the dental assistant, the business assistant, the hygienist, the doctor, whatever you do, everybody has that same purpose, to create a happy, paying patient every day, every minute of every day, and make it happen, whatever it is that you're doing. So whether you're answering the phone, cleaning a treatment room, ordering supplies, paying bills, or presenting treatment, the purpose is to create a happy, paying patient. Now, along with that, let me share with you, let's talk about what the patient's purpose is. We always talk about what our purpose is, but if we're going to serve our patients, we better be plugged in to what it is that they want. So there's three aspects to this, three things that patients want today, that when they call, when they walk in the door, when they're sitting in your chair, there's three things that they have on their mind in general that help them make the decision that they're going to make. Purpose number one is they want what they want, and they want it right now. So there is no greater time of urgency that anybody will ever have, a patient will ever have, than when they're sitting right there in their chair. They took the time, effort, and energy to show up, to rearrange their schedule, to come in and do something that's not part of their daily routine. And so naturally, they want to get as much done as they can while they're there, so they don't have to go through all the motions of redoing their schedule again some other time. So the point here is everybody needs to keep in mind that patients have a sense of urgency, that they've gone through a lot to get there, and they want whatever it is that they want when we figure out what it is that they want, and they want it right now. Second purpose that they have on their mind is they want it now, and they want it to fit them, their specific individual needs, their desires, their specific situation. They want to be treated like a person, not a mass tooth. So they want it tailored to them, so it requires that we understand where they're coming from, what they want, and all the things that they're looking for. So they want what they want it now, they want it to fit them, particularly want it to be treated like a specific, different individual in what they do, and thirdly, they want value. Now, does value mean that they want it cheap? Not necessarily, because people are savvy enough to know that there is a correlation usually between price and quality. So it's not that they want it cheap, they just want to make sure that they're getting the best value for their investment, for their dollars. So those are the three things that they're looking for, is they want what they want it now, they want it to fit them, they want it tailored to fit exactly what they're looking for, and they want value for their dollar. Those are the three key things. So we're going to modify our purpose a little bit today for the purpose of our discussion. So here's the practice purpose again. Create happy paying patients now who repeat and refer now, and they pay more than it costs to serve them now. And so in creating a yes practice, there is a certain sense of urgency that's required to make all of this happen. So it is about making it happen when, I want to hear big chorus, right now, with everybody that you talk to. Now, that being said, let me just add an editorial comment here. That doesn't mean that you're pushy. It means that you have as much a sense of urgency as your patient does to make it convenient, make it happen for them right now. Let me give you one quick example of this that is today. It's current. I always like to look at current examples. So as all of you know, we are now at 7 children in the Anderson household. And with the latest addition, a baby boy last year. In fact, he had his first birthday on the 22nd of March. And so I called the pediatricians. We're pretty popular at our pediatrician's office. I think we're their best customer. And so I called them at 8:30 this morning with some questions about one of the kids. And they said that they'd talk to the doctor and they'd get right back to me. 3 hours later, I still hadn't received a return phone call, so I called them again, and said, I called 3 hours ago, and they said, let me connect you to the nurse. So then the nurse asked me a bunch of questions, and then she said, well, let me get with the doctor, and I'll call you back. So when you talk about a sense of urgency, it'll probably be another 3 hours before I hear back. So 6 hours later, I might get an answer to what I perceived was a pretty urgent situation. So here's my point in saying this is we have to have as much of a sense of urgency, and sometimes even greater, I'll show you that before we get done, than our patients do. We got to get on it and get after it and make it happen right now. So I'm in Dallas, Texas, as many of you know. Let me take you to a little closer to downtown Dallas, Texas. Some of you that have been with me before are familiar with this story about the Mansion on Turtle Creek in Dallas, Texas. So the Mansion is a 5-star hotel, pretty well known around the world. It's been here for a long time. Great customer service, great food. It's really a fine, one of Texas' finest destinations. One of the things that makes the Mansion unique is they have a rule, a policy, if you will, among the team members that are on the staff of the Mansion, is that no one, except for one person, is allowed to say the word no. Everyone else, except for that one person, is required to find every way that they can to say yes to the guest. So no matter what the guest asks, they have to figure out a way to say yes. And if they can't figure out a way to accommodate a guest request, then they refer that guest up to the next level of management and let them deal with it. If they can't figure a way to accommodate them, then they go to the manager. And the manager of the Mansion is the only person who is authorized to say no to a guest. So everyone has to say yes. They are a yes hotel. So come with me into the dining room at the Mansion. This is part of the dining room of the Mansion on Turtle Creek. And imagine that, say, you are a server in the dining room, and they have a lot of protocols, a lot of systems, just like you do in your office. One of the interesting rules that they have in the dining room for the staff is that there is no photography allowed in the dining room. Now, there's a whole history behind that, which we won't go into, but you're not allowed to take pictures in the dining room. So imagine you're a server, and you're serving a table of 5 or 6 people, and someone says to you as the server, would you mind taking a picture of our table, of all the people, or to a special occasion? Would you mind taking a picture of all of us? Now, what would you say? Now, you know the rules. One, no photos in the dining room, but on the other hand, you can't say no. You're not allowed to say no. So what do you say to the guest that allows you to keep the policy intact but also abide by the rule? You can't say, well, it's our policy. We can't take pictures in the dining room. You can't turn them down. So what do you do? So obviously, the skill here is saying something like, I would be happy to take a picture. In fact, why don't you step out here on the patio where the lighting is much better, and we'll get a great picture of your group. Would you follow me, please? So the point here is you give them an alternative that will work. So here's the first point, is as you go throughout the day to be a yes practice, we're going to outlaw the word no, and yes is the only word permitted, or its cousins, its relatives. Always find a way that you can accommodate the patient. And if they ask for something that you don't have, then one approach, one skill, is to present them with alternatives that will work. So in your mind, instead of thinking that, no, we can't do that, is how can I make this work? Let me give you a dental example. Let's say that a patient says, can I pay this out? Now, you know that what they're thinking in their mind is, can I make payments to the office? Can I just pay this out and pay you payments every month? So instead of saying, you can't say no, you cannot say, no, Ms. Jones, we don't do payment plans, you have to pay in cash. Instead of saying no, you might say, Mrs. Jones, could I show you the different alternatives that we have that might help you fit this into your budget? Can I show you the alternatives, all the different ways that we can help you fit this into your budget? We have several different third-party payment plans that might work for you. So show them the alternatives of what might work. Don't tell them what won't work. Here's another example. Let's say somebody says, do you have nitrous? And maybe you don't. So again, these are examples of things whether you do or you don't, but this is an example. Let's say you don't have it and somebody says, do you have it? Well, you can't say no, so what do you say? So you might present alternatives. So Ms. Jones, that's a really good question. We have several forms of sedation that will make your visit more comfortable. Could I share those with you? Okay, so obviously they're looking for comfort. So the point here is when you don't know, when you don't have what they're asking for, one approach is to present the alternatives of what will work. That's skill number one. Now, let's take it a different scenario here. Let's say somebody calls, a patient calls and asks, are you open on Saturday? Okay, now let's just assume that everybody here in the group here, no one's open on Saturday. So assume you're not open on Saturday. Again, you can't say no, so what are you going to say? Now, on this one, I'm going to do a slight different variation of our previous skill. The first skill was to just present alternatives. This one, you might be well served to find a little bit more out. So I might say, well, thanks so much for calling. I give them my name, ask them for their name in return, and I would say, it sounds like you have a very busy schedule. Tell me about your schedule. Now, in one particular case that's one of my favorites in this area is I happened to answer the phone in a dental office not too long ago, and this is exactly what the woman said. She says, are you open Saturday? And I said, well, thanks for calling in. My name's Steve, and yours is? She said, well, my name's Betty. And I said, Betty, it sounds like you have a really hectic schedule. Tell me about that. She said, well, I work at the pharmacy around the corner, and our hours are 8 to 5, and so I have to be here the whole time. So I just can't come during the day, so I guess I'll have to come on Saturday. So then, when I understood what her situation was, then I presented the alternatives. And I said, so Betty, let me ask you this. If we were able to see you at 7 o'clock before work and have you out of here at 7:55, that gave you 2 minutes to drive around the corner, and you still have 3 minutes before work started. You'd actually be early to work. How would that work for you? And she said, oh, that would be so much better. I didn't want to come in on Saturday anyway. So, first two skills, present alternatives. Instead of talking about what doesn't work, talk about all the alternatives that will work. And when you're not quite sure where they're coming from, find out a little bit more. Ask them a question to find out what their situation is before you present alternatives. There are situations, dozens of situations like that every day on the phone, in the practice, when you interact with patients, where you get questions, where you have situations. The key, again, present alternatives, find a way to say yes, show them what will work. Don't talk about what won't. Let me give you one last fun example. Several years ago, this is about 10 years ago actually, Cheryl and I were out house hunting, and we went into a beautiful brand new home. There was a real estate agent there. It was in a new development, and this was kind of their model home. And it was kind of the design we wanted, the floor plan we wanted. It was really a great setup. And so one of the signs that somebody has started buying is they start asking a lot of questions. And so Cheryl started asking about the layout and what the alternatives were. She started asking about the neighborhood. And at one point she asked one of the questions that she asked the agent that was there, she said, well, you know, do you guys have this carpet in, and I can't remember, maroon or some color? And he said, well, Ms. Anderson, we have several different color choices to choose from. Can I show you what we have available? And then he pulled out the color swatches and let her see what was available. Now, in this entire conversation, as she asked all the questions, I started to notice that at no time did he ever tell her that she couldn't have what she wanted. Now, he didn't always tell her that she could have what she wanted, but he never said, no, we don't have that, you can't have that. He always presented alternatives of what they did have that was available that she could choose from. At the end of that interaction, we'd been there about 45 minutes, and we were on our way out, and I turned to him and I said, you know, I've been watching your presentation, and you are amazing at how you present this. I said, you never said no. You just kept presenting my wife with all the things that you had available. I said, where did you learn to do that? And with a twinkle in his eye, he kind of smiled, and he said, I taught elementary school for 20 years. He said, I learned how to do this. It works at home as well as it does at the office. Always find this the way to say yes, present the alternatives of what will work instead of talking about things that won't work. So here's the new mantra in the office. Say no to no. There is no more no's in the office, and the only person that is allowed to say no is the leader. That'd be the dentist. If there are no possible alternatives and you have an overbearing patient, there's no way to accommodate him. The dentist is the only one that can say no. So we're going to replace that then with this question, and this is the one that I hope that you constantly have in your mind as you interact with patients, is how can I say yes? How can I make it possible, make this possible? How can I make it work? How can I say yes? So let me give you one other example. And this is one, we do mystery calls all the time, mystery patient calls, to see how we're handling the intake process in the practice. So with the TOPS practices, we do this on a relatively regular basis. One that we did not too long ago was kind of a curveball, if you will. So we called and asked if the office did a procedure that we knew that they didn't do. So we called and said, if it was a general dentistry practice, we said, you know, do you do braces, or do you pull wisdom teeth, or do you do implants, or whatever it is, a procedure that we knew that they didn't do, because we wanted to know, we wanted to see how good they were at figuring out a way to say yes instead of saying no. Now, the vast majority of offices, just offices that have had no training at all, when we call them and we ask for a procedure that we know they don't do, by and large, every single one of them says, no, we don't do that, we don't do this, we don't do that. They tell us what they can't do. And instead of saying, being intuitive and on the ball and saying to yourself, you know, that's interesting. Here's a patient who's calling our practice for something, granted, we don't do, but I wonder why they're calling us. And so the best practice is figured out a way to say yes. So when they said, do you do braces or whatever, they said, well, thanks for calling. Again, my name's Steve, and yours is, and they got their name. And they said, well, listen, that is a great request. Sounds like you're interested in braces. Tell me a little bit more about that. How did you hear about our practice? In other words, they found out about it, and typically the point we were trying to drive home is if somebody's calling your practice asking for a procedure you don't do, they're obviously looking for a dentist, and they didn't have a good recommendation from their own. In fact, they may not even have a dentist, and so there's an opportunity there to build a relationship, gain a patient, and give them a great recommendation. So here is an additional item that I'd like everybody to have in mind all the time, which is, regardless of what you're asked, the point is to ask yourself, how can I help this person get what he or she wants? And sometimes it may have absolutely nothing to do with what you provide. How can I give them what they're looking for? How can I give them what they want? One of my favorite experiences of this, we, at the Crown Council annual event that we do every year, and we do it at different hotels and different cities all over the country, and we have had some remarkable experiences at some of the best hotels in the country. And one of my favorites was a situation we had at a hotel where one of the Crown Council members asked for a drink that the hotel didn't have. I think they were a Pepsi provider. You know, they'd signed a contract with Pepsi, and somebody asked for a Diet Coke because they love Diet Coke. And the server said, I'll be right back with you. And it turns out that they sprinted down the street to the local 7-Eleven, got a 6-pack of Diet Coke, and brought it back to accommodate the request. How can I help this person get what he or she wants? If that is emblazoned in everyone's mind, then you'll have a whole different attitude, and that is the cornerstone of becoming a yes practice. How can I help them get what they want? So no matter what the question is, again, if you'll eliminate from your vocabulary anything that tells me what I can't have. In other words, if I'm the patient, tell me what I can have. Don't tell me what I can't. So if somebody calls and says, can you get me in today? And your schedule is just slammed. The last thing that I want to hear is, no, we're very busy and we can't see you for 2 weeks. Instead of doing that, find out more. Sounds like you're busy. Tell me what's going on. Get a little bit more about the information. And then tell them what you can do. Don't tell them what you can't. It's all about the yes. Figure out a way to say yes. Figure out a way to accommodate. Figure out how you can help them get what they want. Here's a couple more examples. Do you take my insurance? We've talked about these questions for years. This is another example. You don't have enough information to even answer that question. But even if you're totally insurance-free and you don't take insurance, you never say no. So even if you don't take insurance, again, find alternatives, figure out a way to say yes. You say, we have many patients who have dental insurance benefits. Could I show you how we handle those and how we can help you get the benefits that you have? Let me show you what we do. In other words, you didn't say yes, you didn't say no. You're going to show them how it works in your office to help them get more of what they want. I talked about the emergency example. Instead of saying, no, we're busy, we can't see you, find out more. Figure out what their situation is. Figure out how to accommodate them. Again, how can I help this person get more of what he or she wants? So that's the cornerstone of this whole philosophy, this whole idea of being a yes practice and some of the skills behind it. Now, let me talk about kind of a daily reality, the reality of scheduled production versus production. Every day when you have your morning meeting, if everybody's having your morning meeting every day, is you have a schedule sitting in front of you, and you have a scheduled production. And most everybody talks about how much production they have scheduled today. Now, when was the last day that the schedule went exactly as outlined? Everybody showed up, everybody had exactly done what they had on the schedule. Rarely, if ever, do you produce exactly what you had scheduled at the beginning of the day. So, the goal from today forward in being a yes practice, since we know that it's never going to turn out exactly the way we had planned, then why don't we just plan on making it turn out better than we thought? So here's the goal here is every day our goal is to always produce more than we had scheduled. That's the goal. So when you go to the morning meeting, we're going to be looking for ways where we can say yes all day long and produce more than we had scheduled. Now, I know that that thought may be totally freaking some people out because you may be saying, you know, we're too busy already, we got too much to do, our schedule is crammed, how could we possibly do more than we already have planned? So if that thought has crossed your mind, I have a challenge for you. If you don't think there's any way that you can do more than you have planned, you're welcome to call me. And call me directly, and I will give you the name of another practice that has a similar setup to yours, that has a similar number of treatment rooms, similar number of doctors, similar number of team members, that's producing on a regular basis more than you are. And you can talk to them, and they'll tell you how you do it, how to do it. No matter how much you're doing, no matter how busy you are, there's always somebody else who's doing more than you're doing. And so, and this is one of the phenomena. I've never met a dentist or a team member who has said to me, you know, we really just don't have enough to do. Now, there's every team member, you know, you got a ton of things you got to do every day. And it's amazing when circumstances change, everybody's had this experience, you can always find ways to do what you do better, faster, easier, more effectively, and be more efficient. So again, remember, where are our patients coming from? They want what they want it now. They want it to fit them. They want value for their investment dollars. So our job is to make it happen and say yes and figure out a way to accommodate them any way we can. I ran across an interesting phenomenon the other day. We were in a practice that we're starting to work with, and we're really ramping things up and taking the practice to a whole new level. And as we were going through some of the systems that we were going to implement, one of the team members said, she says, you know, this is a totally new concept to us, because several years ago we had an expert, a quote-unquote expert, that came in and told us that we should never produce more than our goal. And I kind of did a double take. I thought, never produce more than a goal, than they had set as a goal. And I thought, I wonder why anyone would advise someone to never produce more than they had as a goal. So, you know, a goal is a target. A goal is not in cement. It's just a target. So the point, again, the goal every day is to produce more than the goal. Produce more than you have scheduled. Find all the different ways you can accommodate your patients, all the different ways you can say yes, all the different ways that you can help them get more of what they want right now. So in a yes practice, there are 3 basic elements. First is having the yes attitude. We've talked about that already. It's having the attitude of, what can I do to help this person get what I want? How can I say yes? How can I find alternatives that will work for them? That's the attitude that everybody has to have every day to make it work for the patient. So the attitude is a fundamental principle to make this work. Next is you have to have the yes verbal skills. You have to be able to know how to present things in a way that's congruent with your attitude. You can have the want to, but you have to have the how to. You have to know exactly how to do it and present it in a way. So we've talked about some of those verbal skills already. Then finally, the third piece is you have to have the yes strategy. You have to have a daily plan, a daily strategy, how you go about what you do every day to make it work. Now, let me review one of those strategies with you that many of you are using. Some of you on the call are not. And so for those that are using this, will be a good review, and we can discuss some of the finer points of it. For those of you who are not, this will be a good introduction to you. So last year we introduced what we called the MOM, the Morning Opportunity Meeting, and we did away with the morning huddle. And the opportunity is all about this yes practice concept, is finding the opportunities during the day where we can say yes to the patient. One of my favorite definitions of luck says luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So there's opportunities every day that present themselves to us. The question is, as a team, are we prepared to take advantage of that opportunity? Are we prepared to say yes to make it happen for the patient? So there are 4 areas as you strategize every day. This is what I call the Fab 4. There's the Beatles for you. So there's four specific areas where in the morning opportunity meeting every day you can strategize and talk about how can we say yes in these 4 specific areas every day. So you can let this happen by accident, or you can plan for it and make it happen by design. So fabulous area number 1 is new patients. How can we say yes to new patients? So before the morning huddle, before the morning meeting takes place, one of the important responsibilities, preparations, is that the new patients, whatever we know about the new patients needs to be reviewed, because almost with every new patient there's going to be opportunities to say yes to same-day treatment if it's possible. So somebody needs to be very familiar with the schedule. That would be the business assistant needs to know exactly what schedule for the day, where the holes are, where things can be, where we can fit things in, how can we accommodate things that might come up, because inevitably almost every new patient there will be opportunities to say yes to treatment that they could have done today if we can figure out a way to say yes and accommodate them. So there's two parts to this. One, the business assistant needs to know that schedule for today backwards and forwards, where all of the solid patients are, where all the opportunities might be, where we could slip new things in. And I'll give the assignment out before we're done. Then we need to be very familiar with what the new patients have told us so that we can anticipate what their needs might be when they come in. So that's the first opportunity to say yes. Now, here's an interesting principle, and this is a truth for everybody to keep in mind. There is a relationship between time and acceptance, time and case acceptance. So if you look at this diagram, if time's on the horizontal axis, so as you see that blue line, it has the arrow on the right end. So where those two lines intersect, where time and acceptance intersect, that is today. That's right now. And then time goes out to the right. So, and then the acceptance line, the higher, is obviously the higher level of acceptance. So if you were going to graph the relationship between time and case acceptance, would it look like this? In other words, case acceptance goes up over time, or is it more like this? It's been proven in dentistry that the highest level of case acceptance is right now. In other words, the highest level of case acceptance is going to be while the patient's sitting there today, and in the case of the new patient, is they're sitting there today in the chair, they feel the sense of urgency, they've met you, and they're going to do it, they have more of a likelihood to do it right now than if they go home and think about it. It's not likely that they're going to call back and say, I've been thinking about this, and I've decided to have it done. That's not likely to happen. So again, it goes back to our purpose. Create happy paying patients when? Right now. Who repeat and refer right now, who pay more than it costs to serve them. Now, there is no time when they'll feel a greater sense of urgency than right now. So in the area of new patients, if it's possible, if you can all do it, you strategize every day and ask yourselves in the morning meeting, when we have patients that have potential same-day treatment opportunities, how can we accommodate them? How can we say yes? How can we make this work for them today if they've got the time and the desire to get started on their treatment today? That ought to be in your mind. Now, the cool thing about this is if you have that attitude in the morning meeting, that will permeate your entire day, and you'll go about your day expecting your new patients to say yes to treatment and want to get started today, because it's your expectation that drives their acceptance. If you expect them to say yes and to say yes today, more often than not they will, because they will live up to the expectation that you have of them. All right, so that is opportunity area number one. Opportunity area number two, there's the sunshine, by the way. That's just to remind you that the highest level of case acceptance is right now when they come in. Area number two is, and this is one of the most overlooked areas of opportunity in the doctor's schedule. So you're going to look at that every day, and in the morning opportunity meeting, you're going to sit down and say, okay, here's the patients that are coming in on the doctor's schedule to have restorative work done. Of those patients who are coming in, how many of them have unscheduled treatment? So we may be doing partial treatment on some. They may still have some other areas that they have not accepted yet that they're planning on maybe doing in the future. So we need to be very aware of what is it on the doctor's schedule, patients that have unscheduled treatment in addition to what they already have scheduled. Now, here's the yes opportunity, is when that patient comes in, the dental assistant, perhaps maybe even the business assistant, but the dental assistant would probably work the best, is to sit down with the patient, and if I were the patient, say, all right, Steve, so today we have planned to do the prep work on those 3 crowns or 2 crowns or whatever it is. Whatever the treatment is for today, here's what we have planned today. Now, when you're in last time, we always like to make sure that we're always doing what you want us to do. When you're here last time, you remember that Dr. Modick explained that there are 2 other teeth here that need that same treatment as well. And I know you've thought about that. Before we get started, I just wanted to check in with you and see if you want us to go ahead and take care of those today as well while we're in there and it's convenient and you're already numbed up. Just wanted to check in and make sure we're on the same page. Now, here's the deal. Presented in that way, just finding a way to say yes and make it easy and make it convenient for them, you're not going to get 100%. But even if you got 10 or 20% of the patients who said, you know, I went home and I thought about it, and, you know, since you asked while we're there, it's just easy, let's just go ahead and do that too. There will be a certain number of them that will go ahead and say yes just because you asked. Find a way to help them say yes, or find a way to say yes to their unscheduled treatment that they need to have done. That ought to be a part of the routine every day with every patient who has any kind of unscheduled treatment that is on the doctor's book. And you can rehearse that same verbal skill. Again, it's just, Steve, to get started today, the plan is we're going to do the work on those 2 teeth. You remembered that the doctor mentioned to you that there's 2 other teeth in that same area that need similar treatment. I know you've thought about that. I just wanted to check in with you. Is there any reason why we shouldn't go ahead and do those as well today while they're in there? Always want to make sure that we are doing what you want us to do. Just check. Just checking. Always want to make sure we're always doing what you want us to do. And there'll be a certain number that will say yes. So that's area number 2. Area number 3 is to always look at the hygiene schedule. Where are the opportunities to say yes in hygiene? Where are the opportunities to say yes? So as you go through the hygiene schedule every day, then as you prepare those charts, it's always a good opportunity to take, or a good idea to take a look at where are all the patients that have unscheduled perio treatment or unscheduled restorative treatment. It doesn't mean any type of unscheduled treatment, so that we can have a discussion about that during their appointment. Let me give you a little patient insight. Most of you are aware of this. And I've said this many times before, but I think it bears a reminder. When I come in as a patient and you diagnose something or you recommend that there's some type of treatment that I should have, and maybe I don't say yes today, but then I come back 6 months, 3 months later for my next appointment, if nothing is said about what you have previously recommended, I have one of 2 thought processes. One, I think to myself, well, it must not have been that big of a deal if they didn't mention it again. Or 2, I'm thinking, well, I guess it really wasn't a problem at all. They must have just been looking for something, but it really wasn't an issue at all. So as a reminder, if you have recommended it once, then it's imperative that you recommend it every time they come in. Give them an opportunity to say yes on every visit. So again, if I were the patient, then the dialogue would go something like this. We'd say, Steve, it's good to see you back, after 6 months, 3 months, whatever it is. And what we like to do on every visit is we like to give you an update on everything that's going on in your mouth so you can always be in a position to make a well-informed decision. So we're going to talk about some things we talked about last time so that I can give you an update on where things are, and then we can talk about, at that point, what you would like to do. How does that sound? So just letting me know that you're always going to have an update, because I always want to know exactly what's going on. And again, you're always putting the responsibility on the lap of your patient. You're going to make the decision. We're not pushing them to do anything, but always give them an update. So there is every day, and that's, as you all know, I love looking at the hygiene schedule, because if there's any gaps anywhere in the day, this is a great place where we can make a great day happen. All right, so that's your first 3 areas of opportunity: new patients, the doctor's schedule, the hygiene schedule, and then finally, emergencies. It is amazing to me how difficult it is to schedule. If I am a patient and I'm calling an office, I've never been into that office before, it is almost impossible in 90+% of the practices in the country to get an appointment if you are a new patient coming in with an emergency. It's a great opportunity. So a lot of practices will actually, at least what we recommend in the morning opportunity meeting, is to identify the best place in the schedule to have people come in if there's an emergency, but always be looking for ways to say yes to those that have immediate needs. How can you say yes to somebody who wants to come in right now? There's never going to be a time of greater urgency than right now. Okay, so those are the 4 areas, again, of opportunity where you can say yes. Say yes to new patients with opportunities for same-day treatment. Say yes to patients that are on the doctor's schedule that have unscheduled treatment that you could go ahead and take care of today while they're in the chair. Say yes to hygiene patients who have unscheduled treatment to get started with what they need or maybe what they've been delaying. And say yes to those who have immediate needs and would like to get those taken care of right now. All right, so those are the 4 areas. Let's talk about responsibilities. To make the strategy work, then there needs to be some specific areas of responsibility where everyone on the team makes this happen. So first, let's talk about new patients. So as far as having a clear understanding of the schedule and where the opportunities are and understanding the new patients, that is the admin's responsibility. The business, the front office team is responsible for all those new patients and understanding, because you've had the conversation with them of understanding what their needs might be, things they're looking for, treatment they might need, to get as much of that information and be looking for opportunities to say yes to those patients right now. Second area of responsibility. So on the doctor's schedule, all the restorative patients, the dental assistants are going to be responsible for doing those chart preps, looking through, making sure they understand those patients, what their unscheduled treatment is, so that they can sit down and have that conversation that we talked about to be able to say yes to any unscheduled treatment that they could get done today. Hygiene, obviously, that falls under the hygienists. They're going to be looking for those opportunities and doing their chart prep before the morning opportunity meeting, and I suggest doing it the day before so they know everything that is unscheduled so they can have that conversation with the patient. And then finally, the admin team, again, is going to be responsible for new patients and emergencies so that they know when the best time is that they can accommodate an emergency. So those are the specific areas of responsibility. Now, when this works the best, in the best morning opportunity meetings that I've attended around in different offices in the Crown Council, that these responsibilities are clearly defined, and in the morning meeting, everybody is on it. They report in, here's where the opportunities are, here's where we can say yes, and everybody is fully prepared to report so they can put that strategy and that plan together every morning. All right, so that gives you now, we've covered the attitude, we've covered some of the verbal skills, we've covered the strategy of how to do it. Now, this piece some of you have heard before, and it bears repetition because it's one of the most powerful yes practice verbal skills that we teach and that we use. It is the urgency formula. So there are, as you go and you work with patients and you find ways to say yes, there is a 3-step process that makes your recommendations 10 times more powerful. So step number 1 is to express the level of urgency that there is regarding whatever their treatment is. So you might say, I'm very concerned about this particular area. I'm very concerned about what I see. I'm not comfortable with moving on in the same direction that we've been going before. Or I don't believe it is healthy or safe to continue on in this same direction. We need to do something differently. Okay, so you pick your level of urgency. In fact, you might, in some cases, use all three of those as you talk with the patient. Here's the key to this. In hearing yes, as the patient, I'm going to put as much urgency on treatment as you do. No big deal to you, no big deal to me. But if it's urgent to you, if I can feel and sense your level of urgency and concern, then it's going to get my attention. So then those are keywords, the word concern, not comfortable, or I do not believe it's healthy or safe to continue on in this same direction. We need to do something differently immediately to get this turned out, whatever that is. So pick your level of urgency. That's step number one. Step number two, be bold about your recommendation. If you believe in the treatment that you have put together, then tell them, I highly recommend. That word recommend is an attention getter. Not, well, I think you maybe might want to think about doing this. It is, I highly recommend. If this is the result that you want, then I highly recommend this specific course of action. This is the direction that you need to take. Now, let me put a little editorial comment in here about informed consent and options. I'm very sensitive to the fact that you need to give patients options and you need to have informed consent so they know the things that are available. I also know that from a buyer psychology standpoint, the more options I have as a consumer, the less likely I am to make a decision. It's kind of counterintuitive. And science has proven this. If I have a lot of options to choose from, I don't have the energy to go through and sort out and make that decision. I'm more likely to make a decision the fewer options I have to choose from. So if you've done your research and you've found out exactly what the patient wants, then what you might consider saying is, you know, Steve, based on what you told me that you wanted and the outcome that you're looking for, this is the option that I highly recommend. This is what I would want for my mouth and my health if I were you and have the goals that you have. This is what I recommend. That word, recommend, is a very powerful word. So if you're going to add some words to your vocabulary today, add the word concern, add the word not comfortable with, add the words I don't believe it's healthy, and add the word recommend. Now, I know those are all in your vocabulary. Make them more prominent in your vocabulary. People like people who are decisive, who are clear communicators, and who can give them clear direction. So give them clear direction and draw your line in the sand and let them know exactly what you'd recommend based on what you've already talked about. Okay? So there's the first two steps. Pick your level of urgency. Second, make your recommendation. And then third, present a next step. If you've got opportunities in your schedule today, if you've got an opportunity to say yes today, then you might say, you know, Steve, tell me what your schedule is like right now. We might be able to get started on this while you're here and it's convenient and save you another trip. In other words, suggest a next step. If it's an appointment time tomorrow that you've talked about in your morning meeting and you know that you have some opportunities tomorrow, suggest that. But present a next step so that you can get the yes and get it going. So there's the summary. Urgency, present your recommendation, and then present the next step, exactly what the next step should be and when, so you can say yes and move forward. Those are the 3 key steps. So there's the 3 key aspects of a yes practice: having a yes attitude, having yes verbal skills that you have to work on constantly, and having the yes strategy and constantly be working on that, the daily yes strategy, and it starts there in the morning meeting. So we're going to post this webinar at crowncouncil.org in the training section, and with the webinar we have a couple of resources. It'll take us probably about 24 hours to get it up. If you are not using our current morning opportunity meeting agenda, and you'll know that if you're using the current one, it'll say morning opportunity meeting at the top. If yours does not say morning opportunity meeting and have total patient service down in the bottom, I would highly recommend that you get a copy of that and use it as the new framework for your morning meeting. So if you'd like a copy of that immediately, you can email us at answers@totalpatientservice.com. Answers@totalpatientservice.com. We'll respond to you today. We'll attach the agenda and we'll shoot it right back to you. Or you can call our team. I'll put the phone number here up on the screen in just a second. All right, so here's a couple of resources, additional resources. One of the key things that I'm very sensitive to is you got to keep the yes attitude all the time. Here's a couple of suggestions. One, every week we send out an email that has 5 morning opportunity meeting action thoughts to wrap up your morning meeting to make sure everybody has a yes attitude. If you're not receiving those, you can subscribe at totalpatientservice.com. There is a red box up there. You can subscribe, and we'll make sure that you receive those on a weekly basis. Next, the TOPS blog, totalpatientservice.blogspot.com. Every week, we have a new yes practice idea, a specific strategy you can use to help more of your patients say yes and say yes to more of your new patients. So every week there's a new idea that you can use in a team meeting or in some other way to keep the attitude, the strategy, and the verbal skills intact. Our 2-day intensive kind of yes practice course is called the Total Immersion Experience. It's 2 solid days of case acceptance training for the entire team. We have teams from all over the country that make that an annual excursion where they go to stay up to date and make sure that their skills are top shelf there. There's the phone number. You can also see the dates at totalpatientservice.com. And then finally, we have, as most of you know, we have an entire team of practice advisors all over the country that go into the office and ramp things up and implement the systems that we've designed to help the practice run better, get more patients to say yes, and help the practice be more specific. So if you have an interest in how that might help, 877-399-TOPS or 8677, that is how you can reach our team, and we'll see if there's a fit. So that is the starting point of having a yes practice. So I hope you can take those things and create the right attitude, create the right verbal skills, and create the right systems in your practice to say yes more often to your patients and help them to do the same. So thanks for joining us today. I've got just 2 minutes before we wrap up. Greg, do we have any questions that we need to take care of before we finish?
I've got one, and it's a really good one. How can the yes attitude translate to the office being closed? Do you use a recording that doesn't take messages, a recording that does take messages, an answering service, roving cell phones among team members? How do you handle?
Oh, that's a great question. Let me tell you what we do, what's the most effective thing that we've found. I'm a big fan of having a practice cell phone that is answered. I'm not so sure 24/7, you know, you need to do that, but surely from 6 in the morning usually, because somebody in the office, somebody in the practice is getting ready for work and going to work early, from 6 in the morning till usually 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And so after hours, we rotate that phone, so it goes home with somebody every day. And we have kind of a fun contest that we do, is that anytime a new patient is scheduled, then there's a little Benny for the person who scheduled that patient. So it kind of gives whoever's manning the phone that day a little extra benefit for taking on that responsibility. But it also makes you a little more accessible to your patients, and will give you the immediate opportunity to do that. Especially if you're doing anything on the internet, any internet web optimization, or website optimization, or you're doing AdWords, or anything where you're doing some aggressive website or any kind of aggressive marketing. You've got to be available, because if you don't answer the phone, they're going somewhere else. I guarantee you that they will go somewhere else if they don't have somebody to talk to. So that might be something to consider and talk about with your team. All right, here, Steve. Perfect. Hey, thanks for joining us, everybody. We had a great turnout today, and thanks for being with us, and more great Crown Council webinars to come, and we look forward to having you with us again very soon. Have a super day.